Front and Center. A focus on important and significant developments affecting the lives of Filipinos, not only in the Philippines, but also those living and working around the world. Join us in Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Welcome to Front and Center, where we focus on developments in the Philippines, legislation that provides policies and directions that strives to promote a better economy for the country, issues that concern the welfare and well-being of every Filipino. All of these and more will be Front and Center. You can watch this program on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, Radyo Pilipinas World Service. This program, Front and Center, can also be heard on the following shortwave frequencies: 12.010 MHz, 15.640 MHz, and 17.820 MHz. Join us for another edition of Front and Center with your host, Jerome Toledo. On July 25, 2024, during the onslaught of Typhoon Karina, there was a motor tanker that capsized off the Limay Bataan waters. This is the empty Terra Nova. The tanker carried 1.4 million liters of industrial fuel at the time of maritime incident. Despite the stormy and rough seas, the captain of the tanker decided to sail. Eventually, upon realizing the inclement weather condition, the captain decided to turn around. Then came the inevitable. It sank in an attempt to reach the port while being tugged by another ship. By morning, the problem has been uncovered. The oil from the vessel leaked onto the sea, prompting concerns from national and local governments. In the situation briefing on July 26, President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. learned the incident and tasked the various agencies such as the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, Department of Science and Technology, and the Philippine Coast Guard to conduct assessment on the environmental impact of the oil spill. In line of the President's directive, an interagency task force led by the Office of Civil Defense was created. Philippine Coast Guard has conducted series of aerial inspection in the Manila Bay area to assess the damage that oil spill may cause to the marine environment. Department of Environment and Natural Resources, meanwhile, was tasked to conduct the necessary water and air quality tests in the affected area. Health Department was ordered to check on the health and medical condition of the residents. And if we can recall, Terra Nova has 1.4 million liters of oil in its cargo, so it is certainly a daunting task. Now, the oil slick threatens coastal communities of Metro Manila, Bulacan, Pampanga, Bataan, Cavite, and Batangas provinces. And also we also have another two maritime incidents involving motor tanker, and which is still leaking a significant amount of oil. And who will be the most affected sector of this incident, and what will be the effect of the oil spill? And I have spoke with an environmental science expert to get an insight regarding this incident. And here is the interview with Professor Hernando Bacosa from Mindanao State University, Iligan. All right. Okay, thank you so much, Professor Hernando Bacosa, Professor of Mindanao State University in Iligan and Professor of Environmental Science, for joining us in the program.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone.
All right. First things first. Since there's an oil spill incident in Manila Bay last July 25, and it's currently spilling in some parts of the bay. So, what is the effect of oil spill in our marine resources?
Okay, so oil is a form of chemical composed of hundreds of hydrocarbon compounds. So hydrocarbons are composed of carbon and hydrogen, and these compounds have different toxicity. And one of this compound is the PAH, or the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons.
Mm-hmm.
These groups of compounds are known to be toxic, carcinogenic, and mutagenic. And pH can affect phytoplankton communities. It can affect zooplankton communities.
Mm-hmm.
And pH is also the chemical that's being tested in fish and a reference for fishing ban. Of
Mm.
course, when the oil residues land into our coastal areas like the mangroves, the wetland, the beaches,
Mm-mm.
um, it could actually compromise the ability of this ecosystem to deliver ecosystem services. What I meant is, yeah, it will
Mm.
affect the living organisms in there.
Uh,
And when it's buried in the sediment, it could last for several years, and
mm.
it takes time to degrade. And of course, when it comes to human health, um, hydrocarbons have oil has volatile components, and when we inhale them, it can cause dizziness. You're uncomfortable smelling with oil, and it could cause respiratory problems.
Mm.
Also, oil spill has economic effects,
Mm-hmm.
and we know that some of the municipalities and barangays of Bataan have already implemented some fishing ban,
Mm. Yeah.
um, and many fishermen cannot go fishing. That could lead to loss of income and livelihood of those people who are directly involved or connected to the fishing and aquaculture industry.
All right. Since you mentioned the toxicity of the oil spill that currently happening in Manila Bay, so can you tell us briefly how perilous the oil spill can be among humans and animals?
Pardon?
Yeah, how is it dangerous of the oil spill can be among humans and animals?
Okay, so it comes with a contact with oil spill, right? If we are not directly in contact with it,
Mm-hmm.
there are three modes of transfer to humans or animals. It could be like ingestion, it could be through dermal contact, or it could be into respiration. So oil, we are relatively exposed to hydrocarbons every day. We know, like a staff in gasoline station is exposed
Mm-hmm.
to these hydrocarbons. It is not as toxic compared to heavy metals and pesticides,
Mm-hmm.
and shall we say the chlorinated contaminants. And oil is relatively, shall we say, have lower toxicity compared to
Mm-hmm.
other chemicals like heavy metals, chlorinated compounds and
Mm-hmm.
pesticides. And of course, it depends on the concentration of oil in water. The effect of oil on animals and human depends on its
Mm-hmm.
concentration in water. But for zooplankton and the larval fish, usually the most sensitive are the juvenile fishes, the fingerlings, because the bigger fishes have their ability to get rid of hydrocarbons through their gills, and that is supported by science. So usually, yeah, the smaller the juvenile species are more vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
to hydrocarbons in shall we say marine waters.
Marine waters. Okay. And regardless of the amount of oil being spilled in the bay, so can you tell me what sector that will be most affected by this incident?
Yeah, so comparing this oil spill to the Mindoro oil spill, in Mindoro, that's the biggest oil spill
Mm-hmm.
in the country so far,
Mm-hmm.
because all of the 800,000 liters of oil were spilled into the environment. But in this case, with the sinking of empty Terranova in the coast of Limay, Bataan, we know that only a minimal amount of oil of that more than 1.4 million liters of oil has been released into the environment. So now I think only a minimal amount of oil has been reaching the coast or in are floating on the surface of Laguna Lake. And should I say the most vulnerable now are the fishermen, because
Mm-hmm.
LGUs have imposed fishing ban.
Mm-hmm.
Should I say, I think many of these are unnecessary fishing ban based on
Mm-hmm.
my experience in our experience in Mindoro, and based on science, on the result of scientific investigation all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
And we have yet to quantify the effect of oil in phytoplankton, for example, in zooplankton, in our sandy beaches, and in our mangroves. But for Manila, because Manila are usually rocky, shall we say, rocky shoreline, I think the effect on on the coast of Manila Bay is minimal compared to those with coast containing mangroves, wetland, and shall we say, with aquaculture farms. I know there are aquaculture farms in Manila Bay.
Mm-hmm. I see. And you mentioned about the oil spill in Oriental Mindoro last year.
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Now, as a lead expert in this oil spill operation, Professor Bocasa, are we going to do the same method we used in Oriental Mindoro this time?
What method?
Like the oil, deploying oil spill booms, or either um, inorganic or organic waste.
Yeah. So if you can see the video released by Coast Guard, there are containment booms offshore, very close to the ground zero of the spill site. So basically, the goal of I mean, that's the first step in oil spill response.
Mm-hmm.
Containment boom, basically to enclose, to contain, and to collect the floating oil, especially the slicks. That's the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course, that also aims to prevent the spread of oil to other areas, especially reaching the coastline. And the next is
Mm-hmm.
they have done dispersant application. So dispersants are chemicals that are used to create tiny droplets of oil so that they can be degraded by the bacteria. And of course, in our coastline, we can see a lot of booms
Mm-hmm.
deployed so that it will prevent um, reaching or touching the coastline, and we have seen that one.
Okay. So the so what are the things, Professor Bacasa, that authorities must consider in conducting this operation? I think they have started to um, contain the oil slick in the area. So what are the considerations?
So yeah, we based on the latest announcement yesterday, they have sealed the tanks, the cargo tanks containing industrial fuel oil
Mm-hmm.
on the seafloor. So as long as the oil are present in the on the seafloor, there's a risk. There's a risk of contamination. There's a risk of leakage to the environment and marine waters.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the priority now must be, to remove, to siphon, or to get the oil from the bottom of the seafloor, or of the tank. So that must be the priority. Our response agencies, or the private salvage company that is assigned, must find ways as soon as possible
Mm-hmm.
to siphon the oil from um, from the seafloor, because we don't know the weather condition. The weather condition is changing. I
Mm-hmm.
hope there's no typhoon coming in the next few days, so that
Mm-hmm.
could actually compromise, or that could make the oil, the response of operation offshore, and with the rough seas, with the storm, that could further shake the tanks at the bottom, and could possibly lead to the damage of the tank. So yeah, siphoning must be a priority this time,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can eliminate the risk of further leakage into the environment.
I see. And that's a race against time to contain this oil spill that may affect several communities or coastal communities in the bay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. And with that, thank you so much, Professor Hernando Bacosa, Professor of Environmental Science at the Mindanao State University Iligan Institute of Technology, for giving us your expertise about this oil spill incident in Manila Bay.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
All right. Thank you so much. And that concludes this edition of Front and Center here on Radio Pilipinas World Service. Together with our producer Erwin Peñano and technical personnel Milo Janela, this is your host Jerome Toledo. Join us again here on Front and Center. Mabuhay and love the Philippines.
You have just heard and watched Front and Center. Front and Center. Join us again for another edition here on Radio Pilipinas World Service. Front and Center.